What do you think, man?
I'm good, man.
You ready to roll?
Pumped. Yeah, I told you, man. I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Got any questions?
No, I'm ready to roll.
Ready, Brad?
I'm ready.
Let's do it, baby. 8 after 7:08. 19:08 civilians.
.357 Productions is proud to present the Masonian, a monthly podcast for Freemasons with a focus on the Grand Jurisdiction of North Carolina. While not an official function of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, we operate with the full endorsement of Grand Master Bryant Webster. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants and in no way reflect the opinions of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, its members, or any appendant bodies. 357 Productions does not own any of the music. We wish we did, and we love it.
We love it.
Today we are very excited to have some firepower in the house today. We've got retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Brother Rob Morrell, who is past master of Semper Fi Lodge number 680 and the current junior warden of Knight Solomon 766. Is that right?
That's right.
So we're glad to have you, brother.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Rob, we thank you for driving all the way up from Jacksonville, North Carolina. I know that Brown and I came down there to do some kind of program last year, and it just seemed like that's the one we talked about, Brown. Remember we got down there and we drove and we drove and we drove. I asked Rob how the ride up was today, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, I thought I needed to pack a sandwich.
Yeah, but Rob came up and he has his wife today, so Bobby probably talked him all the way up here and kept him company. So.
No, actually, she was quiet and read most of the way, so I was happy. I listened to music.
Nice. So Rob's here for a couple of reasons. One is mainly because, he's our buddy, and we seem to have all our buddies on the show. The other is we want to talk about the Knights of Solomon and the Motorcycle Lodge just a little bit, and we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. We've got a couple of things I want to talk about first. But we're really excited to have somebody from the Knights of Solomon Lodge here. We've been talking about doing this episode for a long time. We all ride motorcycles. We all love motorcycles. We're all very active Freemasons. We love our Freemasonry, and I can't think of a much better way to enjoy all the things that you enjoy than wrap them all up in one big package. How about that?
Couldn't agree more.
Is that the way it rolls at Knights of Solomon?
Absolutely.
Good deal, man. We'll get to that in a little bit. A couple of things I wanted to hit right off the bat. First of all, we try to keep our focus on the state of North Carolina. We don't do a lot of local stuff just because there's from Blackmore Lodge, there's 3 of us that listen probably. But we buried a good man today, yesterday. His name was Jim Haithcock. He was a very important man to us at Blackmore Lodge. Every lodge has this guy though, right? He was a 50-year Mason. He was not a certified lecturer, but he had done the second degree lecture for probably longer than I've been alive. He was one of those guys that stayed active to the very end. If he was could be in lodge, he was there. He supported the lodge in every way, with his money, with his time, with his love. He was a pharmacist in town. He was a retired volunteer firefighter. He was just that dude that
the mayor for
31 years. So he was a pillar of the community, and that's the kind of guys that Masonry used to be full of. And we don't have as many of those as we used to, but he was one of the old school guys that was never old school. He was never that grumpy old past master that was over there saying no. Jim was always open to everything, and we love him and we miss him, and just one for the home team here. Just like
That's right.
Like this, everybody keep his family in their prayers. Good man. Gone to his great reward.
That's it.
We're fixing to start the Allegory and Symbolism lectures statewide tomorrow. This is unusual. We're shooting on a Friday night. Normally we're shooting on usually a weeknight, usually a Tuesday. But we're feeling a little spry and sassy this afternoon because it's Friday, baby.
That's right.
Although we can't get too out of control because tomorrow morning we've got to get up bright and early and go to Greensboro and do the first Allegory and Symbolism lecture. So we're excited about doing that. By the time this episode rolls, we'll have 2 of those under our belt, the one in Greensboro and Wilmington. So if you attended them, I hope you enjoyed them. There'll still be 2 more coming, and I believe that they are in Cary and Chris Wilhoit's lodge. Newton?
That sounds right.
Catawba? It's Catawba Lodge. I know because I misspelled it on the flyer. And fortunately, the Grand Master caught it and sent me an email. Nothing like getting corrected on your
By the
grammar
Grand
by
Master.
the Grand Master.
Yeah.
Ben, I think you spelled Catawba wrong. Oh, damn. Okay.
By the way,
Thank you, sir.
just saying.
So anyway, Catawba, if you get a chance to go to them, they're a really unique look at what the allegory of our lectures really are telling us about. We did one in Jacksonville last year. They were pretty well received. What do you think about those, Rob? You've seen one.
It was phenomenal. A lot of the brothers are still talking about it. It brought light to something that we talk about in our ritual all the time, and it just put everything in perspective in one complete form.
You know, whenever you get to talking about your ritual and breaking it down in little parts and trying to understand what it all means, you can't go wrong. I mean, when you delve into it, you're just on the right track, no matter whether you're at the Allegory and Symbolism lecture, if you're doing that through the Lodge System of Masonic Education, or if you're just a couple of dudes sitting around having a beer and talking about the Lodge. We need more of that. And so I got this theory that if we can get guys excited about understanding what Freemasonry really is at a deep level, that we can get them to buy in. If they understand what it's about, and then they start to smell what we're cooking, to borrow a phrase from The Rock, and they get it, then they'll start to get excited about it. And then when you get buy-in, then all the rest of the problems that we have go away. And so, we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing that we have going on right now in the state is Wilkerson College. We've already had session 1. We'll have session 2 sometime in February, end of February?
I think your next one's the end of February.
End of February. And then the last one will be in Raleigh. If you guys have students in Wilkerson College, they were in for a real treat. Kind of the way that we got hooked up with Rob was Rob became a facilitator for session 2, which was historically held at Oxford. We used to hold session 1. They moved around over the years to different places, but for quite a few years, they've been holding those in Greensboro. Session 1, session 2 was in Oxford. Session 3's been in Raleigh for as long as I've been around. But Rob became one of the facilitators for session 2, him and Doug Calhoun. And I didn't know him from Adam's House Cat. They just said, we've got a new facilitator for session 2, and it's some dude named Rob Morrell. Okay, whatever.
And he's a badass.
Well, he's a Marine. And then all of a sudden, it was this last year or year before last that you started?
2014.
Yeah, so last year, we start getting all these missives. and they're like in real military parlance, and everybody's like, hey, he's talking like a Marine. I'm like, well, that's great. At least he's talking. At least we're getting some communication. The students are getting good communication from him. So I just love the fact that when a dude will jump all over something and take possession of it and take some ownership of it and, take charge of something. Because we have a whole lot of guys standing around in Freemasonry in general going, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to be.
And in Ben Wallace's world and the pack leader's world, that means you're a solid.
Solid, baby. I love it when somebody will take charge of something and just start doing it. So anyway, I decided, before I ever met Rob, I decided I liked him. And then got to meet him through Wilkerson College. We kind of hit it off. We got a lot of things in common. Motorcycles and Freemasonry and kind of the way that we think and a military background and lots of other things that we won't talk about on the family show. Anyway, we have a lot of hobbies in common, and we just kind of hit it off. So I knew I wanted to get him up here. I wanted to get somebody up here to talk about Knights of Solomon. I wanted to get Rob up here. It seemed like a good marriage, and so that's why we've brought him in. The Wilkerson College session 1, though, that was now has moved to Oxford. Somebody built a fire pit out there. Where did that money come from, Rob?
I believe it came from the board of directors.
Good. Well, good for them. They have always wanted to have a fire pit as part of session 1 where the guys gather around a campfire. and just kind of bond.
And this isn't just a normal fire pit. I mean, I think our followers are probably thinking, oh, this is a fire pit. No, this is like the Taj Mahal of fire pits.
Yeah, it's like it's propane fired, and it's got like paving stones and this big wall around
It's almost
it.
like an amphitheater with a fire pit in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I understand they're going to keep adding to it. Is that right?
That's what they talked about when we were there for session one, and it is huge, and it was all inspiring to watch past Grandmaster Billy Dill be the first one to light it, and the students enjoyed it. Now it was a little cool, so they weren't able to really engage in conversation, but as you know, that night at the hotel, the conversations occurred, and that's where learning occurs mainly. Even though they're sitting in all the classes, the bonds are built in the hotel at night. And that was phenomenal. I had one of the students who rode with me from Jacksonville, and that's what we talked about the whole way back home.
Good. Real good. I'm glad to see them build the fire pit. Gold star to whoever had a hand in that. I know Billy Dill was talking about it a couple years ago, so I think maybe it was his brainchild. Whoever pulled it together, it was very nice. And it was nice for Wilkerson College one day a year, but the other 364 days a year, the students get to use it. And it's up there for whatever other groups want to use it. So real good stuff there. We've kind of revamped the curriculum at Wilkerson College. We've got a lot of new programs and a lot of new instructors. One of the ones from session one is this man right here, Worshipful Brother Riley Beeman, who not only presented on technology, which was a brand new, it was a revamp class. We've had that class in the past, but he was a new instructor to it, told him to just take it, from the very beginning and build it his own way. And I graded the papers the other day, the instructor reviews, and Worshipful Brother Riley Beeman knocked it out of the park and had the best instructor review rating of any of the instructors.
That's great.
How about that?
Well,
Our
it's
man.
Just, it's just
Our
because
man
I have
right
great
there.
mentors, and that's all it comes down from. It's
I don't
great
know.
mentors.
Take a little credit for it, man.
Well, I do appreciate it. And I appreciate you allowing me to come and do it. I really, really enjoyed it.
Very welcome. I was so proud of one of our team up there just knocking it out of the park.
It was motivating.
Coming from a Marine, the badass out of the bunch. Right? Hey, before we
I
get
thought that was
started, I
me.
would like to thank you for your service. I know we're sitting here talking about me and commending me, but we don't think enough of our veterans enough. But thank you for your service. I know both of you gentlemen are vets, and I just can't go on and on enough about your service to our country. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question, Rob. Here's where we start to go off the rails.
That was quick.
Yeah, we're
Intro off the rails.
Yeah, we're 7 minutes in. We're okay. So, you wound up being a facilitator for Session 2 for Wilkerson College. Prior to that, you were just a Blue Lodge dude, right? You were probably one of the wardens when you got invited to do that?
Actually, I had just gone through the class the year before, and Worship Brother Ron Sortino was the dean of the college at that time. And he asked me, and I said, absolutely, I'll do it. That experience for me to go to Oxford was one I'll never forget. To see what we're fundraising for, what our monies go towards, was inspiring. Going on the campus for the first time was like almost going to a Harvard-esque campus. It was just beautiful. I have a thing with architecture and old buildings, and those buildings tell stories. And then when you go into the Cobb Center and you look at the museum within there and you see all of it, and then you look at all the fielding external from that, and you just get that deep sense that what you're doing is right and it's fruitful for our future.
Amen.
So when he asked me that, I was like, absolutely, without a question. So that's how I came to be one of the site coordinators for it.
So Colonel Sortino kind of picked you out as a guy that was a potential leader and asked you to come be part of the leadership team.
He did.
Good for him. He's a great dude, by the way. I love him very much. Learned a lot from him. Riley, how'd you wind up in all this?
As far as instructing,
Yeah.
I was just
And doing the thing at Grand Lodge. So, which Riley and Sean helped run the sound at Grand Lodge.
we were just asked. I mean, I guess it's just being in that circle. Sean and I were both fortunate enough to be asked, and it was just a big honor. it was really nice because being an alumni of Wilkerson College, when you go through Wilkerson College, and I know Sean will agree with this, I mean, you're in there with heavy hitters, and these are some of your, who you would consider your icons, teaching the classes. And for me, I had you and Larry and Sean Bradshaw, and of course, several other ones, and just people that we have been, great mentors for us. And then to be asked to come back and teach, I mean, it was just a pleasure. I mean, I would have never thought I would have been able to come back and teach, or had even been invited to come and teach, some time from now, because you just think, you need to garner some experience and, be put in some of those situations where you could come back and teach. But I was flattered to be asked.
So let me ask you guys this. So both of you wound up in leadership positions in North Carolina by knowing a guy. You knew a guy that was like on the inside, and he kind of, as a mentor, asked you guys to come help in your respective stations. Do you feel like by doing that you guys are giving back to the craft?
Absolutely. And I say that absolutely in the fact that obviously he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, which is normally the trend for Marines to begin with. I try to be pretty humble in my stance and not gloat or boast about any type position or accolade that I've ever achieved. I've done so only by the work of others. And he saw how much, I guess, it meant to me. And,
Right.
and when I discussed it, when I went back to Lodge, what I observed and what I learned during that session was when he came and spoke to me.
You feel the same way, Riley?
Yeah, a little different. I mean, I agree with Rob. I mean, I feel like we're giving back to an extent, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of what we're supposed to be doing. If you get that opportunity to be asked to do something, just like with Sean and I doing sound for annual communication. I don't know about Sean, but I was pretty stressed out. I mean, there was a lot of stress there.
Yeah, there was a little tense there.
I mean, we wanted to do it right, and of course, everybody wanted it to be right. And in the past, we all know sound and music was, kind of new and had some bad moments. Just, kind of felt like, hey, if they think that we can do it, and we need to get in here and shine and say, hey, step up to the plate, because that's what the guys, before us did. The Billy Deals and stuff like that.
So do you guys feel like by somebody putting that confidence in you and them bringing you into a leadership position in North Carolina, did that motivate you to be an even better Mason and to give back even more? Do you think you're giving back more now than if you had not been asked into a leadership position, if you were just past master of Blackmer or Semper Fi?
I think I'm more engaged now than when I was before I was a past master. Obviously, my year as master.
Because of the expectation, do you think?
I don't know if it was the expectation from somebody else or from myself. I guess that's to be determined by whom you ask. For me, it was, okay, this has proved this much light for me, so let me continue to give because it's done so much for me. And not only me, but my family as well.
There you go.
I think mine goes back to what we were talking about earlier, those conversations in the hotel. Those conversations while you're sitting around smoking a cigar, drinking a beer, talking about the real reasons everything's going on. My first hotel experience was at Oxford, back at the hotel, actually before we went into the first meeting that evening with Larry Thompson and at the time Grandmaster Billy Deal, in a hotel room with them, just those two gentlemen, and listening to them, and I was just blown away.
If you'll turn that stool upside down, she won't be able to jump up on it anymore.
But I was blown away, and really it just kind of set me on fire. I just thought, man, this is awesome. Why don't we talk about stuff like this in Blue Lodge?
And so by having some FaceTime with some of the bigs, it set you on fire and wanted you to be even more involved with Freemasonry.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me ask you guys this. If you had not known me and Larry and whoever drug you into all this, and if you had not known Colonel Sortino and you had just become a regular past master of your lodge, then you may be or may not be real active in your lodge still, but if you did remain active in your lodge, then you would be affecting the guys pretty much in your lodge or maybe the surrounding lodges that you went to visit. But is it a fair statement to say that you're giving to the craft. You're giving energy to the craft in a better, in a bigger way than if you were just past master, because of the guys that you knew that kind of elevated you, gave you a platform to do that.
I would say that through it all and expanding outside of my little general lodge, the education has grown and the initiative to become educated has grown. Not to say that you don't do that, but listening to these podcasts, reading articles that come on the Sophia Lodge Facebook page, starting an educational program external from the lodge meeting forum. Those have expanded me to reach outward within my local area, not just within Semper Fi, for example.
Good. Same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I wouldn't have been exposed to you, or if we just took our leaders out of our lodge that were not as involved in North Carolina Masonry as they are, I feel like I would have been just a young guy who entered the lodge with this huge burning passion to learn everything there was about Masonry, and it would just sit there and smolder because I wouldn't have known. And nothing against Blue Lodges anywhere,
Right.
but it just I wouldn't have that richer context to it because I would just be exposed to just the Blue Lodge, my Blue Lodge.
How you feel about this, Brown? I mean, me and you, look at the things me and you are doing. Not that we're all that great, but we're certainly reaching a lot of people. And it's all due to the people that we know, right?
That's right.
Anything else you want to add to that?
That's right.
Brown's not a man.
That's right.
Man, a few words. So here's where I'm going with this. There are so many guys that are just as good a Masons and have just as much burning desire as me or you or Brown back there. But when they go through the chairs, they didn't get an opportunity to maybe go to Wilkerson College. Or when they became a past master, they didn't know a Larry Thompson or a Bill Bruton or a Billy Dill or a Ron Sortino or somebody that gave them the platform to really shine and give more light back to the craft. There's a bunch of them out there. And so what do? They either stay active in their Blue Lodge and they can touch, if you think of these as touches, they can touch, the 100 Masons in their lodge. Oh wait, only 15 of them come. So the 15 or 20 Masons that come in their lodge, and maybe some surrounding lodge. But if you had given them the platform to teach at a Wilkerson College or run a session or run a podcast, they may shine and add that much more energy back into it. True statement?
I would say that's true.
Potentially.
There's a flip side to that.
What is it?
The flip side is that desire could burn, completely fade out,
On some, yes.
and then they may not come back to lodge at all.
Yeah, and certainly not every past master wants to, wants to give back the way that, some of us do. But there are certainly guys that have that desire to give back that don't get the opportunity.
And that's, we have this conversation, the three of us have this conversation all the time, but Rob's right. If we wouldn't have that experience, then you're just another civic organization.
Right.
You can be a member of a Lions Club or a Rotary, and nothing against those groups, but you can be a member of those.
So those guys, though, that want to shine, that want to give back, I'm always getting guys ask me all the time, everywhere I go to speak, hey, man, how do I get to help with that annual communication committee? Or how do I get to teach at Wilkerson College? Or what can I do? I want to do more. What can I do? And the answer is always nothing. There is nothing. I mean, Wilkerson College instructors with the exception of this year where we had a major flip and brought in several new instructors, probably 6 or 7 of them. That's very unusual, though. Normally, we may have one instructor a year that drops out. The crowd that runs annual communication, there's maybe if you count you guys that are doing sound, there's maybe 10 guys. There's like 3 or 4 on the core committee, and then another, maybe 6 or 7 that do peripheral kind of things. You got, how many DDGMs we got? 40, 44, 43, 44?
Sounds right.
Same amount of DDGLs. I don't know how many districts there are, something like that. So even if you count the committee members on the various Grand Lodge committees, you're not up over 200 people. Well, there's a whole bunch of Masons in North Carolina. Nobody can really ever tell you how many. Somewhere, the best I can tell, somewhere between maybe 32 and 40,000. I keep getting varying numbers because they don't really have it. The Grand Lodge can't tell me how many members they've got because they say, well, we got a lot that are dual members and multiple lodges. I don't know why they can't count them, but for whatever reason, maybe they just don't want to tell me. I don't know. But somewhere in the neighborhood, so let's just use 35,000 for a rough number. Probably lowballing it there. So you got 200 people running, essentially in the inner circle of management, including the Grand Line officers and stuff. It's the same set of dogs, and most of them cross over. I mean, it's probably closer to 100 because, so I'm involved in Wilkerson College, but I'm also involved in, I'm on a couple of committees. So I mean, those numbers, those guys count as one guy, not you hold multiple positions, so you're like 100 guys, and it's hard for a guy that wants to do more to find an avenue to do that. So riddle me this, Batman. What if, in a perfect world, we had a way that guys that really wanted to shine, that had proven themselves as leaders, could have some way to get involved with the management of the lodge and then would have an opportunity to pour that positive energy back into the craft. And what's more, they wouldn't stay in their little blue lodge and get frustrated with the way things are going and feeling like they don't make a difference anymore and drifting off. What would be the downside to that? There is one.
I'm sure there is one. And the one that I can think of is what I said earlier about remaining humble and not overstepping your bounds.
Yeah.
And thinking that you're of this elitism fashion.
But there's certainly a perception that the 100 that run everything are elite. That they think that they're elite. There's this disconnect between those guys. You hear it all the time. Grand Line officers understand this to be a problem. They just don't know how to fix it, right? My apologies to the Grand Line. I certainly do not speak for them. But, they are the most humble group of guys you'll ever meet. Every one of them. Every one of them says, I don't really deserve this honor. I'm just doing the best I can. There's no braggarts in North Carolina's Grand Line.
And will help any way they can.
Help any way they can.
You can literally call any of them and they'll show up at your lodge.
And they're befuddled to this whole idea that there's a disconnect between the craft and the Grand Line. They can't figure it out. They don't understand why. They say over and over, well, we're their leaders. We are them. They have the ability to come to Grand Lodge and vote anything up or down that we do, make any suggestions. We're a true democracy. On and on and on about they can't understand why it is that the regular Blue Lodge Mason feels so disconnected from their leadership. And so first let me tell you the downside to having a way for those bright young people, those eager young lions, as one of my friends put it the other day, and really got me thinking about this. That I never have an original idea. I stole this from a friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, because when this goes bad, we don't want him going down with us. But his idea was to have bring together those guys, just like we're doing in Wilkerson College, but have an avenue to identify those guys that are smart and intelligent and personable and have a burning passion to help other people and really want to see the lodge improved, and have a way to train those guys, bring them together, and use them in some capacity to give back to the craft. And my argument to him, this is what I initially thought, that's not the thing for us to do, because that sounds an awful lot like training people it sounds like a corporate mentality. We're going to train them to climb the corporate ladder, and that we're going to be creating positions for no reason other than to create positions to give new guys some sort of a title. And if there's anybody that understands that layers of bureaucracy is a bad thing, it's me. All of the things that I've been able to create and I take no credit for myself, have been the fact that there were not 47 hoops to jump through and not 27 permissions to have to get. I was able to go directly to the Grand Masters and say, I've got this crazy idea for this lecture series. Can I do it? And they said, yeah, go ahead. And so I created it and said, here it is. Is this okay? Yes, go do it. And so, I don't want to see us create more levels of red tape just to create them. That's the downside. But the upside, the potential upside, fellas, is this. The reason that everybody feels so disconnected from the Grand Lodge is because they have no interaction with them. Here's the interaction they get with the Grand Lodge, especially if you go out of the middle of the state. You hear a lot of this. Well, I never see a Grand Line officer. Grand Master hadn't come down here in 15 years, which I know is not true, but that's the way that they feel. He's had a district meeting somewhere close to them, but I hear it all the time. A Grand Master hadn't been in this lodge in 47 years. Well, maybe he hadn't been in your lodge, but those guys are busy. Now, I know them. I know their schedules. Doug Caudle put over 30,000 miles on his car last year. Our Grand Master this year is burning the road up. They are gone from their families. It's a huge sacrifice. They are not sitting around on their couch with their feet up, eating popcorn and drinking a Coke and saying, ha, 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 I'm the Grand Master.
Let's make all these rules to govern everybody.
They're working their tails off. But there's 35,000 dudes. You can't touch 35,000 dudes. Here's how they get touched. With an official message from the Grand Lodge. The Grand Master has an article in the North Carolina Mason, which comes out, was that quarterly?
Quarterly.
He gets an article. Well, okay, they may read his article. He has district meetings, which is somewhere in their general vicinity once a year, which they may or may not go to see. Which is on them if they don't go, but still, it's one opportunity to see a dude moderately close to you. There's annual communication where they get to see him, which, by the way, that's at the end of the guy's year. And other than that, there's not a lot of opportunity for interaction with an official Grand Lodge representative. You can call the Grand Secretary's office and ask them a question. You can call any of the Grand Line officers and they'll probably talk to you, and they may even come to your lodge and do a program. You have all those opportunities, but we're not putting anybody official in front of them. And the DDGMs. Now, some DDGMs burn it up. So you've got DDGMs that run a gamut from the dude that's really active in his district. He's in constant contact. He comes to your lodge 3 or 4 times during the year and all the other lodges in his district. And then you got the dude on the other end that you see once a year for his official visit, and that's it.
But they still suffer from the same thing. Lodges still look at them as an extension of the Grand Line, and sometimes they get bad-mouthed just as well.
Yes, they do.
We've all seen it done. Oh, God, there he comes.
So how do you fix all that?
I don't know how you fix it.
Oh, I got a plan, but go ahead.
But what I will say is that
Let us tell you how we're going to fix it. No.
leadership is a big part of that. And I know we spoke briefly about that earlier. Leadership is there. It's provided for all of the members of North Carolina Masonry to reach out to the Grand Lodge. The reality is the Grand Lodge line is just that. But everyone else is the Grand Lodge.
Right.
But
they don't see it that way, Rob.
No, they don't. And when I hear that, I have to say, well, you do realize that you are the Grand Lodge. They are just our leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. So you understand that. And Riley understands that. And Brown understands that. And I understand that. And of the 35,000 Masons, probably 3,500 of them understand that. But the rest of them don't. They just think that they are those people.
But it's stuff that
They're those people in Raleigh.
Been ingrained in them. It's stuff that, as a new member coming into the lodge years ago, not too many years ago, but still, I remember hearing it before I got to know all the Grand Line guys. There was, somebody say something about Grand Line in the lodge, and I was like,
DDGM's coming. What does he want?
Right out of the gate, I'm sitting there going, man, these Grand Line guys must be mad. They must be terrible. They're going to come in and smack us around and tell us what we're going to do and everything. And then I got to know them, and I'm like, this is completely wrong.
It's just a misperception.
It is.
And it's a misperception because they don't get a lot of touches from the establishment. So what if I'm just playing a what-if game here. So you got all these young, energetic Masons that we're needing to do something with, that we would benefit from giving some role so that they could give back. They want to do it. They just don't have an avenue to do it, right? We're agreed on that.
Okay.
All right. So what if let me throw you some crazy ideas. What if we had part of the problem with the DDGMs, they can't get around to all the lodges. You talk to any DDGM, oh, I'm just busting my hump. I'm going all the time. I don't ever have time to get to all the lodges I need to get to. You've heard this, right? Everybody's heard this, and they're right. I mean, you got to go to not only your lodge, but you've got to go. If you're a good DDGM and you try to get to every lodge once a quarter, well, you're busy all the doggone. There ain't enough time.
And that's not including if something's going wrong.
I mean, that's like right.
I mean,
right.
if something's
That's
going
right.
wrong, then you
Right.
know, that's a whole nother level.
What if they had assistants? What if each one of them had 2 assistant DDGMs? Just to show up in lodges, check on how things are going on, be there to kick something up to the boss, being the DDGM. And what if the DDGLs had an assistant where they could actually get to all the lodges and see them opening, close, and do degree work more than maybe once a year, maybe? They would find out a lot of things that are going on in lodges that should not be going on because they were there more.
Couldn't agree more. So you're talking about like an ambassador to the DDGM
Yeah,
in
something
each
like that.
district?
Yeah, something like that. So that would create some more positions, and it would put a representative from the Grand Lodge in the Blue Lodges more often. Now, the Blue Lodges are going to hate this at first. They're going to hate the idea of them looking over their shoulder more. But I think as you flesh it out, we would, one, identify problems quicker and be able to correct them, which I got a plan for that too. And 2, just by their very presence, if the guy would go in there and be a good guy and get along, and I'm there to help, not hurt you attitude, I think they could start to feel more comfortable with the establishment. What if we had lodge district education officers? Lots of Grand Lodges do this. Have a district education dude whose job it is to come around and make sure you've got some education plan this year, and if not, help you develop an educational plan. And he could have an assistant or 2. All of a sudden, we just created about 200 more jobs for eager young guys in North Carolina. I'm sure I could come up with some more, but I thought about those today. And then what if you took those eager young guys and you took them to like a leadership seminar where you taught them
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
management and leadership skills. And then that's kind of grooming them to be DDGMs. Because let me tell you something about DDGMs. There are some great ones and there are some sucky ones. But the reason there are some that suck is because they aren't vetted well. The Grandmaster this year told me that he was going to try, and I think he did, talk to every DDGM that he appointed. Which inferred that has not always been the case. I asked him if that was the case. He said, well, I don't know what other people did, but I think they don't always get vetted well. And he was going to vet them. But apparently that hadn't been the practice for forever. Now, I'm sure some of the GMs did and some did not. But you can't just pick a dude. Here's the way it goes. For those that are listening that don't know, you guys know this. If Riley's DDGM, when his term is coming to a close, which is a 3-year cycle, I believe, then he submits 3 names of people that he thinks would be good people to replace him. He submits those to Riley, I think. I think that he submits these to the Grand Secretary's office, who compiles them and then gives them to the Grand Master. If that's incorrect, then I beg everybody's pardon, but that's the way I understand it is. And then from that list of 3 names, the Grand Master does not have to pick one of those 3, but oftentimes does, especially if it's in a district that he's not familiar with. Our Grand Master is from the mountains. He probably doesn't know a lot of people down east, so he takes a district down east where he doesn't know anybody, and he takes DDGM's word for it. Well, DDGMs can be wrong. Sometimes they pick the wrong dudes to submit.
And it helps that if you got a past grandmaster in that district as well, or
Yep.
a neighboring one that has cross patterned into that other district.
Yeah, and maybe they vet them better than I think, but I certainly know that there are DDGMs that do a poor job. We've seen them, haven't we, Riley?
Yes, sir.
And you know, and well, I started to say it, it wasn't his fault, but it was his fault. But I mean, it was ultimately somebody should have vetted him better. Because when this dude that we're talking about, good dude, when he got picked for that job, I said, he's going to be a horrible DDGM. And he was, because somebody hadn't vetted him well. So what if we had this leadership program where we're identifying these eager young guys, we make them assistant DDGMs first to make sure they're going to, toe the party line and be good guys and show up and do what they say they're going to do and be nice and, play nice with others. And then promote those guys to DDGM. And as a vetting process, you're both, giving those guys something to do, and you're getting better leaders at it.
Yeah, I think building on top of that, there's other things I know that you've already come up with as well, probably, but there's other things outside of just simple things like that could be done across the state of North Carolina that would help out. One thing that I've always been in question of is, why don't we have centralized get-togethers? All the lodges. Why don't, one night we're, any lodge that's close to Greensboro, we're going to rent the bowling alley. If you're a brother, come out. You'll get a discount coming in or whatever. Or, we could definitely buy out the whole bowling alley for a night. It's very affordable. Or, we're going to meet at this restaurant, or we're going to go do this and have events all over North Carolina, like a calendar, saying, hey, we're just going to get together. If you want to come out and smoke a cigar and drink a beer at this thing and let's talk about Masonry and have a good time, why don't we do that?
I love that. And what if you couple that with this? Have one of the Grand Line officers there to facilitate it, to answer some questions and, dispense some policy. Just say, here's
Absolutely.
Here's
a
some
guest
hot,
for the night.
Here's some hot button items in North Carolina. Here's the Grandmaster's stance on them. Here's his policy, by the way. Hand it to him in a piece of paper.
And let these young guys
have
run the
question,
events.
Have a little question and answer. Yes.
Here's what you guys can do. You set up events all over North Carolina. Here, just make a monthly calendar. We'll share it all, and you guys come up with these different events. But that's the thing that we've all talked about, and I'm sure you have at some point. You've heard us talk about it at Workers and Colleges. People got to understand that lodge can be fun. You can have a good time. It's not just business and go home.
Right.
That's what sucks. That's why we don't have butts in the seats, is because people are just going to lodge, doing business and going home. Well, you're a Marine. I bet you like to shoot guns.
We'll get the amen.
Absolutely.
Do you like to shoot guns? Absolutely. What's to say that we can't meet one weekend at a shooting range and let's shoot some guns?
Or a table lodge. I mean, that's, for us in the military, that's like a mess night. I mean, you do toast. I mean, it's not done in a lodge. You're not tiled. I mean, it does have some decorum to them, but it's fun.
Yeah.
How come all the motorcycle guys were not meeting at Hooters in Greensboro for bike night?
Man, that's a great idea.
I mean, everybody converges.
Hang on, somebody get a pen.
Let's get the Prince Hall guys involved. We'll all meet and do Hooters
Yes.
bike night. We'll invade Hooters.
Yeah, those guys are great to hang out with.
And I mean, just something simple like that. And there we go. Then we're building bonds with Prince Hall.
Yeah.
Then we're getting them in the mix.
Yeah, so what happened? So why don't we do that? So why aren't we doing that, Riley?
Because nobody wants to step, just like you preach to us all the time. Nobody wants to step up and do it.
Yeah, nobody wants to get off the couch and do it. But I think you could help that.
And I think people are scared. The ones who want to do it, just like you said, they've not been in those lines. They've got that burning fever in their lodge. They just don't know who to talk to. Where do I go about this?
Or they bring it up in their lodge and some grumpy old past master says,
You've lost your mind.
You can't do that.
That's exactly where I was.
And they're like, okay.
Exactly where I was going with that. They ask the question and they get told, no, you can't do that. That's against the code. Well, no, it's not against the code.
Right.
The code is mainly for when you're in lodge. Yeah, you have decorum how you act out of the lodge, but it's for the lodge. What you do external to that as a group, as long as it's within good taste and order, you're fine.
Yeah. Maybe you could have a committee or a hotline or something that you could call and say, hey, grumpy old past master says we can't do this. Can we get together at Hooters with the Prince Hall guys? Can we?
Well, I mean, I think I think you're taking the right approach with the Speakers Bureau and stuff like that. I think it's really going to help. I really do. I mean, I think we're going to get people out there. They're going to be talking to these guys in lodge and kind of breaking some of those walls down. But you're right. Rob's right. We've got to do something.
Right. Well, how's this talk about the Knights of Solomon going?
I'm waiting for it to start.
Yeah, we're 40.
Why does give him a leeway into it?
We're 40 minutes in. So tell us about Knights of Solomon.
All right, Knights of Solomon. Obviously, the mother chapter, if that's what you want to call it, out of Charlotte, was formed about 2 years before we were, but they were the test bed for this Knights of Solomon motorcycle or traveling lodge. You don't necessarily have to ride a motorcycle. We have those that drive in cars to all the events. And it was, I know for us down east, we were talking about having like a motorcycle club or a riding club association of some sort, just for a group of guys to go out and do those things that we talked about, going to Hooters for the bike nights. But labeling ourselves as Masons to be distinguished as we're a group of guys that have the same beliefs and we want to have a good time. Now, we didn't necessarily want to do all the degree work and so forth and so on, but we had to do that to become chartered. But we don't raise, we don't pass, we don't initiate anybody. We leave that to the Blue Lodges. We felt that was important for the Blue Lodges to continue to do that. We're just a group of guys that like to go within the eastern part of North Carolina and travel around and visit new lodges. The killer idea with it is that everywhere as we go, we end up maintaining about 3 to 4 new petitions to affiliate with KOS. Ben and I talked about it earlier. Eastern North Carolina is huge. It's almost divided by southeastern Eastern North Carolina and northeastern North Carolina. And sometimes it's hard to travel through all those places. A lot of the districts down there are also huge. I mean, in Onslow County alone, we have 7 lodges to include KOS. So, I mean, we're main point out of Semper Fi. So we don't really travel in Onslow County so much to do our stated meetings. We try to go to like Wilmington, New Bern. I know next month we're going to Royal White Hart Lodge, and we have an education for that particular stated meeting. So we're traveling all over the place. Goldsboro. We haven't gone to Greenville just yet, but there's something in the works to do that. I think what a lot of us are trying to do is get all 3 of the KOSs together on a single day and hold our meetings, but basically have a little KOS rally. That's what's been discussed, at least in our immediate lodge, and I know it's crossed over to 768. And I've had a couple of conversations with like Alan Mann and so on and so forth for 764 to do that type of event. Now, it would have to be somewhere central in the state so that we're there, all of us coming from the west and the east.
Like Mount Gilead. We're close to the center of the state here.
Almost dead center.
About 12 miles that way.
That's been discussed, Ben. So within the coming years, that's what we hope that we can do, is to utilize that as a point for us to do that, at least for now, and then have something maybe separate just for all 3 lodges to meet and just have a weekend, with wives, kids, so on and so forth.
Cool deal. So, all right, let's throw our home team thing in here just a minute. So we're having the URA Mountain Rumble. Anybody that wants to sponsor that can.
Blackmer Lodge.
It's not money for Blackmer Lodge. It's money for the children. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we would love to have you guys. Anybody that wants to come to that, come. It's April
16th.
April 16th. Thank you, Brown. And one of the Knights of Solomon groups is coming to that, if not 2 of them. The one out of Charlotte is
764.
764. They're going to hold a stated meeting there. I love this idea of putting your hobbies together with your Freemasonry. I don't see how you can go wrong. And here's the thing I see about the Knights of Solomon whenever I see those guys out. They're happy. This is like the talk we had about the Shriners, right? The Shriners are kind of not, my kind of Freemasonry. But they're always happy and they're always doing good stuff. Knights of Solomon are the same way. When you see them, they're having a good time and they're doing good stuff. And they're raising a heck of a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah, I didn't even bring that up.
Let's talk about money a minute. What are your dues first, and then tell us about how much money you raise.
Our dues are $53 a year, which is, we don't have a building or anything to pay support to, so, it's basically just a administrative type fund. We, of course, pay the Grand Lodge per capita tax and so on and so forth. But as far as the the fundraiser that we do, it's held in Charlotte. Obviously, they've been doing it for a few years. Last year was the first year that we down in the East got involved with it. We had 200 tickets, and there were 600 total sold, or set to be sold. And out of those 200, we had sold 188, I want to say, tickets. And we made a lot of money. And when annual communication went on, that check was presented, I couldn't be more proud to say, okay, I'm a KOS member.
Right. So in association with the ticket sales that you have, which is for a couple of motorcycles, right?
One motorcycle and 7 weapons.
Uh-huh.
Between shotguns, pistols.
And then y'all also do a ride. Is that the same fundraiser or is that separate?
It is
To the Oxford.
to Oxford. That's a separate. That's a memorial run that they do, and that one's out of Charlotte as well.
Is that KOS or is that?
It is KOS, but that's a memorial run that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had 7 guys from the East ride up and do that run. So there's those type of things that they're trying to do and build on. A little difficult from the East to build that and have those guys from the West come to us because it's such a mass area, easier to travel to Raleigh area and do that type of thing. So,
But you guys did a run to Oxford. Brown and I was there one day.
That's right.
When was that? And there were a bunch of Prince Hall guys with you. And that was Johnny Searles was there, I know. So
Was that the one you guys filmed? You filmed them rolling in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
that was when 2 years ago when Wilkerson College Lodge or Wilkerson College was in line.
Yes.
In session. Yes, and that was a Ray Price run. I don't,
Easter
It was Easter.
Yeah.
Exactly what it was. So yes, we did have those guys converge in that area to do that run together. And yes, there were a lot of Prince Hall riders there. So, and we have the Masonic Riders Association there in Jacksonville. It's actually a national organization. I happen to know the national president. What's funny, I didn't even know that he belonged to that. He was down in Jacksonville not too long ago, and one of the guys called me and said, "Hey, come meet me here." I said, "All right, I'm heading that way anyways. I was going to have a cigar, in fact." And I showed up and I saw this guy. I was like, now we served together. We went to recruiter school together and did all of that. In fact, he was my first induction to Masonry. And that was late 90s. I didn't do anything back then just because I didn't have the time or the dedication within myself to do it. So I said, nah, I'm going to pass up on it. But come to find out, he's the national president for that Masonic Riders Association. One of the guys I worked with for a few years, he's the VP for the local chapter there in Onslow County. So we're trying to crossbreed with Prince Hall in that regards as well and do rides together.
So are you saying that the Prince Hall guys have a national riding association? This is a Prince Hall National Riding Association?
They do. They're not governed by any Grand Lodge. So it's a free and separate organization in the name of Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's recognized by Prince Hall
Yeah.
to be solidified. So
Yeah, you know, Brown, when we were talking to those Prince Hall guys, we were telling them that our guys, so the Widow's Sons, and we'll talk about them in a minute, is like a national riding association for Freemasons that have like chapters, but they're not lodges. They're not under any grand jurisdiction. In North Carolina, we can't do that, is my understanding, and that's why y'all have lodges.
Correct.
You're in lodges. But the Prince Hall guys that we ran up with said that they couldn't have a motorcycle-only lodge. They could only have a club. And I guess that's what they're talking about. They have individual clubs, but they must be all members of this national club. I wish we could get some of those guys. We should have had one of those guys come.
Yeah.
We will have one of those guys come.
Yeah, it'd be a good show.
Masonic Riders Motorcycle Club.
Huh. Cool. Well, you know, we certainly have we are all very pro Prince Hall here. and we're all very pro motorcycle, and I think it'd be a great way for us to start dialogue with them, just to start riding with them more. The times we've ridden with them, they were most gracious to us. We had a very good time, treated us just like brothers.
Sure did.
Everyone I've ran into, same thing. Of course, like all Masons, an introduction is probably fitting when you're meeting somebody, but after that point, there's no difference.
So what else can you tell us about these lodges? So the one's in Charlotte.
One's
That's
in-
the original one. How long has it been around?
Let's see, we're in our third year. 5 years ago?
And then y'all been around 3 years. And
3
there's a
years.
new one in Holly Springs,
Correct.
which is near Raleigh, right? South of Raleigh?
South of Raleigh, yes.
Right. Did you go to that when they chartered that thing?
I didn't. I had something going on within the Blue Lodge since I was Master of the Year. I wasn't able to make it to that.
Everybody said that that lodge was really, really cool. Really old lodge, apparently. So they're brand new, but I assume they're not far from, well, they're what, 3 hours from you?
2.5, 2 hours.
So you'll probably do some stuff with them.
Yeah. I mean, we travel that far anyways. I mean, just within a district of Onslow County, well, it's more than Onslow County, but it's 2 hours and 45 minutes between the farthest lodges.
Holly Springs are probably only about an hour and 15 minutes for us, Brown, I'm just saying.
Or if you just start a chapter in a lodge here in our county that could use it, might would help.
So you're saying, like, if there was a lodge that was in real desperate trouble and needed some help, you could go in and flip it into a motorcycle lodge?
No, I think you just said that.
Oh, it's a brilliant idea, though. Sure would help them out. I mean, it's really all about them, right?
It is all about them.
Either way, I'd applaud it.
Would you work that up, Beeman?
Just saying. I think Brown's on it.
I'm all
You know, they
for
do have that whole full basement, and if we could, all we'd have to do is go down there and knock a garage door, and everybody can have their own clicker, and then when you pull up, then you just hit the clicker, and the garage door comes up, you pull your bike right in the basement.
Oh yeah, that'll work.
It's perfect.
Oh yeah.
What's wrong with that plan?
I think that they may be receptive to it. I think they're coming around. Maybe. Just saying.
Rob, we sure appreciate you driving all the way up here from Jacksonville. Look forward to spending tomorrow with you at the Allegory and Symbolism lectures. I love the idea of the Knights of Solomon. It sounds like me and Brown and Riley maybe, I don't know, we're going to do something. We've got a lot of options here. We're going to weigh our options. But I love this idea of mixing them up, our favorite things all together.
Well, I appreciate your hospitality to Bobby and I, and look forward to spending tomorrow with you as well.
You're welcome, brother.
I am smelling like the rose that somebody gave me on my birthday deathbed.
Not so
I am smelling like the rose that somebody gave me 'cause I'm dead and blue.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Masonian. For more information and productions, please visit and like our Facebook page at 357 Productions or 357productions.net. You may also email us at 357productionsteam@gmail.com. Again, that is 357productionsteam@gmail.com. As always, tell people that you love them, and remember, we meet on the level and part on the square.